Now, here are my conclusions about this whole thing. I think we're at a real tipping point. You know, I heard somebody say the other day, and I thought the talk up here with the chairs was very, very good. I really got a lot out of that. Because I kind of saw how other people think about orthopedics as a business. And the comment was made, you can't legislate away arthritis. No, you can't. But you can legislate away the people that actually take care of arthritis. Look at Canada. They have competent orthopedic surgeons. They just don't have any way to do total joints because they only get half a day in the OR a week. I get 2.5 days. You know, I mean, you can legislate away the ability to take care of people. You know, and I think that ultimately, and you know, I told you about the shortages and the shortages of doctors. This is not I think the real crisis in medicine is about to hit us because most trauma care is taken care of by people my age. I'm going to be 60 this year. Everybody that I know that's doing trauma is over 50, and we're all tired of it. You know, I laid down my arms. I'm not doing big trauma anymore. People are getting tired of it, and there are no young guys to take our place. So there's going to be a sudden catastrophic loss of manpower because it's still a free enough country just not to do the job. You know, it takes about 15 years after high school, you know, you go to college and medical school and 5 or 6 years of residency and a year or two of fellowship to produce an orthopedic surgeon. Ever since 1976, the government has been saying to us, we have too damn many specialists, and they have not increased the number of specialists. So it doesn't matter that in theory we still have the disease and we should be treating it if you don't have the people to treat it. So I would be, you know, I'm concerned for the future of our economics because ultimately your products are no good unless there's somebody around to put it in, and every economic sign is bad for us. And if it's bad for the guy that actually puts your joints in, it's not a good thing for the whole economic picture. And ultimately, the only way we're going to get better is to decrease the size of government. Now, I mentioned the FDA the other day. When has government ever decreased itself? We can sit back and hope, but I'm going to tell you, it's up to you guys. I think, you know, the small people like me, we can only do so much. But big business has to stand together, I think, and start saying no to government because otherwise we're not going to get anywhere. You know, I love this quote by Charlie Reese. I got it backwards. There's no dishonor in being forced by a superior power into slavery, but it is an eternal disgrace to voluntarily surrender one's liberty for the filthy bowl of oatmeal and the promise of security by liars. You know, when I read that, I think Medicare. Now, the first thing I would say, don't surrender your right, make them take it. And I'm going to have to say something about AdvaMed. AdvaMed, as you know, the six big orthopedic supplying companies got together and they said, we're going to regulate ourselves so the federal government doesn't regulate us. Well, how's that worked out for you? But you know, it's some of the worst policy I see coming down the pike is because we decide we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot so somebody doesn't come and shoot us in the head. It just slows us down. We're still going to get shot in the head. You know, I wrote a letter, voice crying in the wilderness, tilting at windmills. I wrote a letter when I got this letter from the newly created AdvaMed, I wrote a letter to every CEO in that list, and I said, please don't do this. I said, I can't stand up for myself, but you're throwing away a basic fundamental right. You're throwing away the right of association of a private company with a private individual. Now, I'm not saying that I believe in kickbacks to surgeons for using your total joint or whatever, but, you know, to say that we cannot associate on our own however we like, I mean, I practice my own ethics. Don't give that right to the government to interfere with that principle. And yet we do that. The other one is pragmatism with principle. I love this slide. If you can't read it, it's no matter how trustworthy he may appear, do not give the monkey your pistol. Now, unfortunately, we've already given the government our pistol when we gave them the tacit idea that they were okay legislating us on the basis of safety, because there's nothing you can't legislate on the basis of safety, including your medical care. But what I'm saying here is that I want to say, you know, fascism is pragmatism over principle. Hold your nose, do it, because that's the only way to survive. Ultimately, that leads to bad things. It ends badly. Now, you guys may not be in this situation right now, but I am. I'm in a situation where there are algorithms coming down from the federal government that's telling me how to practice medicine. And fortunately, most of them I kind of agree with. But some of them I don't, because they're cookie cutter. And I deal with individuals. I see the patient in front of me and he doesn't fit that algorithm. But they're telling me if I don't do the algorithm, my hospital doesn't get paid. It's the classic third-party hostage situation. Don't put a gun to the old man's head and threaten to kill him, put it to his grandson's head. So they're saying if I don't do something, it's going to be problems. Well, I've put myself, what I'm saying to you, and I would do it, and I think you should do it as a company, and I've done it individually, is don't put yourself in an economic position where you have to do things you ethically disagree with just to survive economically. You know, if they tell me tomorrow, this is the way I have to treat my cervical spines, and I don't agree with it, I'll do knee scopes. You know, I'm going to shift. In fact, I downsized. I got rid of my big practice. I went from 7 employees to 0. I'm now like Paladin. I contracted with a hospital, but I'm not a hospital employee. And I can now turn on a dime. If the economic situation changes, I can change with it. You know, you guys, you know, and I say that, stay lean, mean, and be able to turn on a dime. Tomorrow, let's say you produce one product, and tomorrow the government says, and they take over all health care. Tomorrow, the government says, we're not going to pay for 22645. You're out of business. That's what happens when government controls anything. And I know I'm a little over time here, but I'm going to say one more point, and that is, you know, there's an article you should read out there. It's in the Lancet, and it's written by Ezekiel Emanuel, the brother of Rahm Emanuel, your mayor, actually. Ezekiel Emanuel is a physician at the NIH, and he wrote an article, the name of which it's called The Disability Adjusted Life Year. And it talks about, in theory, what we're going to do when we finally get a hold of all the healthcare dollars and we become the sole provider of healthcare. How are we going to distribute it fairly? Everybody ought to read that article, because you guys wondering about why you're not selling so many total joints maybe this last year, it's going to get worse if they do what they're saying, because what they say is that we're going to give the money in healthcare to the most productive people, i.e., if you look at the graph of where the dollars are going to go, if you're under the age of 2, I guess they don't think you're a real human being until you're 2. If you're under the age of 2 or over the age of 60, you're not going to get any health care. In fact, in another talk I have this rubber woman who can bend over and she's kissing her ass goodbye, and I said, you better just do that if you're over the age of 60, because you're not going to get health care in the future. But those are your total joint patients, okay? And most disturbingly in that article, he actually writes these words. He says that older people who are sick are their life years are objectively less valuable. That is word for word, objectively less valuable. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that quite disturbing. And I shouldn't say this, but especially from a Jewish physician. I just want to ask him, I said, where were you in 1942? What have you not learned from the last century when Jews and gypsies and other people were objectively less valuable? You know, the horrors of the Nazi regime, I have a whole other talk on the lessons of Karl Brandt, and I can tell you this, the horrors of the Nazi regime, that was not ushered in just by people with black boots. It was ushered in by physicians. Physicians started this thing, in a way, with their eugenics and euthanasia. They were the ones. So, and it happened very, very gradually. So go back and read the history. But in any case, that was my digression. Another point is, if I were in the business of producing orthopedic implants, okay, I would produce necessities, not palliatives. If you look around, because if we keep going the way we're doing and we become like Canada or Britain or France or any of these other countries, they'll take care of you if you're bleeding on the sidewalk in front of them. They can't avoid that. That's bad PR. But if you just have pain, they're not really too concerned about your suffering. So if I had a choice of producing femoral rods or spinal cord stimulators, I'd probably produce femoral rods. Just a thought. And, you know, prepare to downsize, of course. Now, there is a solution to healthcare that I talked about on the Stossel show, and I'm trying to get published, and it'll be on my website here at one time. But it's called the 3 C's, and I don't have time to go in the whole thing. But it's cash, catastrophic insurance, and charity. And it's the way we practiced medicine before government got involved. You know, when you pay cash at the window, costs go down. I could have operated my office with 1 or 2 employees, not 7, if people paid cash at the window. It's a huge infrastructure to build those third parties. The other thing is you can't defraud the guy at the window, so all waste, fraud, and abuse goes away, and there's competition. You know, LASIK is done with cash. Now, it used to be $5,000. Now it's $500 some places. So trust me, cash works. And then you treat your insurance like you treat your house or your car insurance. You know, you don't expect to be able to buy fire insurance when your house is on fire, but the other side of it is you don't use your health insurance for your house insurance for every little ditzel. When a shingle blows off or your window needs painting, you do it yourself. Okay? You don't take your car in and have the oil changed and charge it to your auto insurance. That's why those insurances are not expensive. They're portable. You own it because you're the customer. You don't need a bill of rights about your car insurance. So go back to catastrophic insurance where I don't expect to use it and I pay cash for everything else. And then there are people that fall through the system in any medical system you want to devise. The question is, if you get the cost down and you really do it through local charity to take care of those few, we can do those few. When the cost comes down, like I gave a talk to a pre-med group, and the first question was, what do you do about the illegals? And I said, well, you know what? In the old days, the illegals paid cash and they came across and got care like everybody else. They could afford it. We could afford to pay cash to the doctor in the old days because the overhead was so much lower. And we could do it again. So, and then local charity picks up the rest. You know, government charity is a scam. Government doesn't know how to run charity. Now, I do have hope for the future. I don't want to leave you just down and despondent, because there are people writing books like John Stossel saying the government's not the answer. And fortunately, unlike Greece, where everybody's protesting to get more goods, give me more from the government, at least we have groups of people in this country protesting to get the government out of our lives. And you know, they get it. I've talked to some of the Tea Party people at meetings, and I said, and when I talk to them about paying cash and catastrophic insurance, they get that idea. You know, it makes even Medicare-age patients get it. And in fact, my organization, which is the association, the one I'm a member of, association is not mine, or Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, aapsonline.org, we go around the country and we teach private practitioners, like family practitioners and interns and stuff, how to run their practices for cash. And universally, they find they do fine. They even keep some of their Medicare patients who'd rather pay cash for a doctor that has time to see them than to go through this government nightmare. And their patients are happier, and they're practicing ethical quality medicine. They can also preserve their patients' privacy because nobody can call them and ask for the records. Now, I do have a blog spot, and you can find more information, but does anybody know what this instrument is? I'll just tell you. This is a medical instrument that was designed using the concept of the Native Americans, that smoke has medicinal qualities. So this is a smoke enema machine. So the next time a politician is talking to you, blowing smoke up your ass, I'm just going to tell you that you guys in the free market have designed an instrument to do it more effectively. Thank you very much.